Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Phantom Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 18 of Danny Phantom Life Lessons. And we see a return of Valerie as a central character. In this case, what happens is that Danny and Valerie, while on their way to school, wind up crossing paths with each other because they're both using their double lives as shortcuts so that they don't have to deal with the hustle and bustle of riding on the bus. However, because they stopped to fight, they were late, and by the time they get to school, it turns out that one of their teachers, I think the gym teacher, I don't know, one of their teachers is instituting one of those to learn to be a parent type of classes where they give the kids like a flower or a cup or whatever and say, you're going to be a parent, you're a parent now, so have fun. As such, Valerie, not wanting to deal with, well, the baby, let's call it, winds up giving it to Danny and tells him that she wants him to, and says that he's going to take care of it while she has other things to do. See, and at first you think that it's probably just that she goes out and does everything he does, like fighting ghosts and so forth, dressed as her alter ego. But in this case, unfortunately, the job is made a little harder when Skulker returns, now voiced by a different actor, and whose name I don't remember, and I know the actor, but I don't remember his name, sorry to say. But pretty much what's good. But as such, Skulker has actually saw the earlier tiff and thinks that both Danny and Valerie are worthy prey. I mean, he was already hunting Danny, but he sees Valerie's skill and thinks that she's worthy. As such, he tries to get them both into situations where they'll fight, and pretty much he decides whoever is the one that comes out on top will have the honor of being his prey. However, no matter what he does to get them to fight, it just doesn't work. Like, he used the box ghost as bait, resulting in Danny and Valerie stepping in. Then he actually tries using the baby to try and get them to. He steals the baby and tries framing Danny to get them to fight, but every time Danny finds a way to get everything to calm down before it can escalate to the point. As a Skulker finally just says screw it and then uses a trap he sets, somehow knowing where they would land because he handed over the baby when they were in the middle of the field, and somehow that triggered one of Skulker's traps that was there. I don't know. Bottom line, he uses that to knock them both out, and then when they wake up, they're tethered together inside his personal hunting ground in the ghost zone. As such, they both have to work together to try and fend off Skulker, and unfortunately, they're both mostly depowered as the tether keeps Danny from being able to utilize all of his ghost powers, and most of Valerie's weapons have been stolen and scattered throughout the hunting ground as traps. Thankfully, her hoverboard managed to survive she managed to keep her hoverboard as it's revealed that apparently it's part of the suit and all she has to do is like tap her heels together and fly off. But and it's revealed. And at this point, she and Danny actually start conversing. It's a reluctant conversation, as Danny still doesn't like her, and likewise, she don't like her in either one of her persona, and likewise, she doesn't like him. She doesn't like him for her because of previous episodes and because of her previous popular social status. Plus, yeah, you know what I mean. But so that's when they find a place to rest and they try to smash the tether to try and get themselves free. But Skulker contacts them via a comm link in the tether and tells them that, and says that he's kidnapped the baby, and tells them that if they want this thing back, then they'll have to go back and face him. As such, Danny and Valerie, because neither of them want to fail the class for this thing, they decide to go. They do go back to find Skulker beating up their baby because it has a built-in cry mechanic where if you're not constantly soothing it or whatever, it just starts crying. As such, Skulker starts smashing the thing, but resulting in Danny and Valerie going in and managing to work together to knock Skulker around until they manage to trigger one of his traps. And one of them was they shot darts that paralyzed you, and so Danny intentionally triggers the trap so that a bunch of darts hit Skulker, completely paralyzing him. Which is still a little weird considering that his body is supposed to be an exosuit. Excuse me for a second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to bring my dog in. Anyway, so Skulker's paralyzed, and again, like I've said before I left, I don't know how he's paralyzed considering that his body's supposed to be a suit, but whatever. And so Danny and Valerie managed to get the key to get rid of their tether. Okay, I'm not even gonna pause it this time. Sorry about that. dog came in, and now he jumped on the bed. You better not try and take this over. Anyway, so they managed to get the key and undo the tether, and so Danny, to try and keep everything secretive, says that he'll help Valerie. He's in the video now. Don't like it, then stop watching. But you can't. You can't not like it. Look at this face. Look at this face. Look at this face. He's just so adorable. He's a little shit, but he's adorable. Anyway, so Danny possesses Valerie, and that he flies her back to her apartment, and discovers what her other job is. Earlier in the episode, there was it was revealed that the Nasty Burger had like this mascot that was just constantly being harassed by all the customers and so forth, but you never saw who was underneath it. And it turns out that the Nasty Burger the mascot was Valerie, as Danny finds the suit on her floor. As such, Valerie wakes up and Danny transforms back into his human form before she can figure it out, before she can see him. And at this point, he says that, well, I'm sorry about the... And so Danny does say, oh, I'm sorry, this was your job. This has got to be the worst thing in the world. And it's actually a really nice moment where we see them just start to connect a little. As such, Valerie gives Danny back the flower baby, and unfortunately, because of Skulker's earlier abuse, the thing's has been torn open, and half the flower and half of the contents are gone. He is trying to take over. You can be right here, Xander. The next day, while they do get chewed out by their teacher, they at least still get a C for the project, because there was not baked into a cookie. And a context for this, the B plot for the episode involved Tucker and Sam, who had been paired up as their kid's parent. Sam wound up growing attached to it, even though she's the one that called it like just a bag of flour. But when Skulker tried using the Boxos as a bait, Danny gave his baby to Tucker to babysit, so quote unquote. And Tucker charged him. As such, while Danny took it back, he starts hearing that other students are having trouble taking care of their kids, and so he offers the same thing to them, getting paid for it. But when he learned that Sam took the baby back to her house, he went after her, leaving all the other babies behind. And so when he came back, he found his mom baking cookies for a bake sale, and it turns out that the flour she used was from all the babies. As such, all the other students failed because of that, and Sam is the only one that got an A. And as for Tucker, he had to give everybody a refund. But anyway, after that, the episode pretty much ends with Sam and Tucker finding Danny now wearing the Nasty Burger mascot suit, because Danny says that Valerie does a lot, so maybe she at least deserves some kind of a break. So she at least deserves this. In the meantime, the last scene is Valerie hunting the box ghost. So on the whole, what do I think of this episode? I think it's really nice. It also offers more, again, I think what I like is, I think I might have said this before, but Valerie's actually kind of interesting in retrospect. Like, when I first saw her, back when I first saw the show, I honestly didn't care about Valerie. And it's not because she was badly voiced, and it's not because she was a bad character, well, maybe. She started as shallow, just as shallow as all the other popular characters. And this is nothing against Cree Summers, the woman who voices her. She's still awesome and portrays her very well. But I tuned in Danny fandom for the superheroes, not the person in the jump, not this girl. But now that I'm older, I can still see the character growth there, and I actually do appreciate it more. And in this case, I like seeing this continuing growth. Like, Danny and Valerie are still at odds with each other throughout most of the episode, but by virtue of them being partnered together, both in their civilian identities with the baby and in their dual identities with the tether, it forces them to have to communicate and get to know each other more. And in the case of Danny, at first, when Valerie just shoves the baby off on him, he's angry and thinks, oh yeah, sure, I'm stuck with the baby, but she gets to go around shooting at ghosts. And to the point where when he actually gives her the baby and says, I know about your other job, she said, you do? And she actually seems worried and tries to actually tell Danny, look, I need this grade or else my dad's going to kill me. But then when he actually learns that the other job she was talking about wasn't her ghost hunting, but rather the job at Nasty Burger, suddenly he's a little bit more sympathetic, because it is a crappy job. People in mascot suits kind of get abused, have to deal with kids and customers and so forth, and they just gotta stand there and take it most of the time. And he does actually feel sympathy for her. And while they're not exactly on friendly terms, quote unquote, by the end of the episode, you do feel a better bit of appreciation, especially since they're forced to work with each other in their dual identities. As Valerie was willing to work with Danny because of the tether, and even says, "Look, true." And once they get the tether off, he tries to offer her a truce, and she says, "Well, get me out of this ghost zone first, and then we'll see how long it lasts." Which, yeah, she still does not like him, but by the same token, she's willing to trust him, which I'm okay with. I really do, but it's some leeway. I like that. Just a little bit of leeway. And that's one of the things that I kind of like with Valerie in the show. She, little by little, does warm up to Danny, both in civilian form and in the ghost form, though the civilian form gets more attention than the ghost form, which I like. I do really like. And you see them get, and on top of that, it does add more depth to her character. Like I said, she started off as a Valley girl, and Shades of Grey did open up her character for expansion because her family was caught in the middle of Danny's antics with a ghost dog. She lost her street cred and popularity, resulting in her being shunned by her friends, and ultimately just kind of ditching them. And then when she realized they were bad company, but to suddenly realize that. And for this episode we get more development, as she actually does get to spend some time with Danny in and out of their identities, and it's just nice. It's just them talking, them having to work together on some things, Danny finally seeing things from her perspective and so forth. It's actually really nice, and it helps them grow closer. It's a nice start. Nothing great, but nothing amazing, not leaps and bounds, but it's a nice start to the development between the two characters, and I think that's really nice. On top of that, the B plot's hilarious. I just think it's silly, stupid fun, with Tucker opening a babysitting service and getting moolah for watching the flower bags. In the meantime, Sam, who was initially dismissive of the whole thing, starts growing attached to the baby, even to the point where she starts putting it in makeup and so forth. It's just so stupid, and I love the payoff. It was just hilarious. But the main plot is still so really nice too. I like seeing them go. I like seeing Skulk, and on top of that, Skulker's still nice. While the voice actor is different, it's still just as nice as other times. And I do like that we can. And again, he's still a little bit more competent here, though he still gets funny lines there. Still gets his funny lines. It's still really nice seeing him go up against them both with because the last time we saw Valerie, while the enemy was just kind of a dog that didn't know any better. In this case, she's actually going up against a real ghost that wants to do her harm. I love her reaction to the ghost zone. Like when Danny and Valerie both wake up in the ghost zone, she starts freaking out and just wondering what the heck's going on and so forth. Which still shows that she is still a bit of a greenhorn to all this stuff. She's willing to fight the ghosts, but she still doesn't know that much about them, which I like. I really do like. And again, so on the whole, what I think of the episode, I think the main plot is a really great strength with it. I like seeing Valerie and Danny working, actually kind of trying to bond with each other. I like seeing them I actually like seeing them kind of be forced into these situations where they do need to get to know the other person. We do get more depth into their characters. We see more of them trying to actually work it out with each other, and by the end of it, they are closer, whether either of them want to admit it or not. So, and the B plot is funny. It's just funny. So, yeah. On the whole, yeah, Life Lessons is a good episode. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm Samuel Johnson. This is Andrew, the adorable little puppy, and I will see you next time. Take care.